What's up? Welcome to the stack. Welcome back if you've been here before. I'm neonmushroom, and today we have some EDH Commander gameplay for you guys. Interestingly enough, all four of the decks we're playing today are first-time decks to the channel, so that's pretty interesting. And don't be fooled. You've seen Golos in this channel, just not this version. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at who's playing, what decks they're playing, what hands they decided to keep, in addition to the normal upkeep stuff.
As always, if you like this show or any of our other shows on YouTube, liking, sharing, and subscribing helps us out immensely. If you like our content and don't mind that extra mile, you can always support us over on Patreon, over at patreon.com/mtg the stack.
Like Jacob Sims.
Comment down below any of your thoughts and feelings, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, first up we have Foley bringing his Klothys group slug build. This deck is going to be optimized to use Klothys to maintain a life point advantage over all of his opponents while using symmetrical damage effects like Mana Barbs and Citadel of Pain to close out the game. Ryan has decided to keep a 7-card hand with 3 basic forests, a basic mountain, a wasteland, a pyrohemia, and a deflecting swat. Then we have your favorite friendly neighborhood panic attack trigger playing Golos Tireless Pilgrim. This is not going to be Calvin's personal Golos build, just so you're aware. This is going to be a build designed by Aiden, and it's a lands matters deck that wants to end the game with something like a Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. Trigger is also keeping 7 cards in hand with an Elvish Reclaimer, an Enlightened Tutor, a Wrenn and Six, Mina and Den, Torment of Hellfire, a Bloodstained Mire, and a basic Mountain. Next up we have me, and I'll be playing my Breya Etherium Shaper build. This deck is going to be a combo deck that wants to utilize a ton of different combos that we have access to in white, blue, black, and red. There's way too many to list here, so I would highly recommend checking out the deck list in the description. I will also be keeping a 7-card hand, including a Goblin Engineer, a Mox Opal, a Flusterstorm, Swamp, Inventor's Fair, Marsh Flats, and a Flooded Strand. And finally we have Guy playing the partner pairing Sakashima of 1,000 Faces and Krark the Thumbless. This is basically a storm deck that wants to get as many copies of Krark out as possible and then start to win by casting things like Pyretic Ritual infinite times, all while killing its opponents with a card like Rail Storm Conduit. Guy is the last one of us lucky enough to keep a 7-card hand, including Lightning Bolt, Snap, Ponder, Twin Flame, Shatter Skull Smashing, Command Tower, and a Shivan Reef.
Card game!
Powder of the game mode. Look at this monster.
Alright, ready? On 3, 1, 2, 3, flip.
Zinga.
It's Foley!
Alright, Foley won card game, so he's going to lead us off by drawing and playing a basic mountain and passing to Calvin, who's going to play a Bloodstained Mire and ship the turn to me. I'll draw and play my own fetch land, Flooded Strand, and then we'll pass to Guy, who's going to draw and play a Scalding Tarn and just pass the turn right back to Ryan. He'll draw and play a basic forest as his land for turn.
During your next step, crack Bloodstained Mire. Does it resolve?
Yes.
Actually, it does.
Okay.
Just the meme. Fucking stifle.
Calvin is going to wind up getting a Ketria Triome off of his fetch, then he's going to untap and draw his card for turn. In his first main phase, he'll play a basic mountain as his land for turn, and then he's going to tap out for Wrenn and Six. This resolves, so he's immediately going to tick up the Wrenn and Six to buy back the Bloodstained Mire from his graveyard, and before he can pass to me, I'm going to fetch with my Flooded Strand to go get a Regular Triome. After that, we're going to move to my second turn. I'll draw my card for turn, and I'll drop a basic Swamp as my land for turn. Then I'll tap for 2, and I'll cast Goblin Engineer. When that resolves, it has an ETB, so I get to search my library for an artifact and put it into the bin. In this case, I'll choose Ashnod's Altar, and I'll try to pass to Guy, but he's also going to fetch, dropping to 39. He'll get a Steam Vents and shock it into play. Then he's going to tap for red and Lightning Bolt my Goblin Engineer. I'm going to put the Goblin Engineer in the bin, then Guy's going to untap and draw his card for turn. In his first main phase, he's just going to play a Command Tower as his land for turn, and then he's going to pass the turn to Foley, who's going to draw and play a Wasteland as his land for turn. Then he's going to tap for 3 mana to cast his commander, Klothys, God of Destiny, and with nothing else, we'll move back to Trigger's turn. He's going to draw and play that Bloodstained Mire for the second time this game. He'll immediately fetch, dropping down to 38, and he's going to search his library for a land. In this case, he's going to get a Taiga. Then he's going to tick up his Wrenn and Six and buy back that same Bloodstained Mire again. Then he'll tap his Taiga for mana, and he's going to cast an Exploration. After that, he's going to drop an additional land for turn as that same Bloodstained Mire. This is the 3rd time he's played it. Then he's going to tap for 1 green and play Elvish Reclaimer. Now that he's satisfied, he'll pass the turn to me. I'm going to draw and play Inventor's Fair as my land for turn. Then I'm going to tap out for 3 mana and cast Basalt Monolith. With nothing else, I'm going to pass the turn to Guy. Guy will draw his card for turn and play a Shivan Reef as his land for turn. Then he's going to tap for 2 mana to cast one of his commanders, Krark the Thumbless. With nothing else, we'll move to Ryan's turn, where he'll draw, trigger Klothys, exiling my Ashnod's Altar, and drain gaining everybody for 2. Then he's going to play a Spire Garden as his land for turn, and he's going to tap out for 4 mana to cast a Mana Barbs. While that's on the stack, Trigger has a response. He wants to fetch with his Bloodstained Mire, and he's going to drop down to 35. Then he's going to search his library for a Volcanic Island. He'll float 2 mana before it resolves. Then he'll allow the Mana Barbs to hit the board, and he'll use that 2 floating mana in order to cast a single target Cyclonic Rift. Foley responds by casting Deflecting Spot for free, and choosing to bounce Guy's Krark with the Cyclonic Rift. That's all going to happen, so they're going to put their cards in the bin, and then we're going to go to Calvin's turn. He will untap and draw.
Slit my throat, senpai.
Everything is ouchie ouch.
Ouchie ouch.
It's turn 3. Just fucking relax, everybody. Calm your nerves.
I'm the mana and the mana barbs and me going beat target fetch land is gonna crack me, and then that's gonna crack me. Let's go in my hands. This is fine.
Yeah, let's put it in there, baby.
After buying back his Bloodstained Mire again, he's going to tap for 4 mana and lose 4 life to cast a Mina and Den Wildborn. This means he has 3 land drops, so he'll play an Overgrown Tomb, a basic mountain, and the Bloodstained Mire again. After that, he's just going to pass the turn to me. I'm going to start by tapping for 4 mana and losing 1 life to the Mana Barbs to cast Duretti Scrap Savant. Then I'll use Duretti's +1 ability to discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards. I'm going to bin Mox Opal and Steam Vents in order to draw a fresh 2 cards. Then I'll play Marsh Flats as my land for turn. I'll then tap my Inventor's Fair for 1 mana, losing a life, and I'll play a Soul Ring. With nothing else, I'm going to pass the turn over to Guy, who will untap, draw his card, and play a Riverglide Pathway as his land for turn. Satisfied, he's going to pass to Foley, who will untap and trigger Klothys. This time he's going to exile my Mox Opal from the graveyard, drain gaining us all for 2 and going up to 44 life. Then I'll deploy a basic mountain as his land for turn, and he's going to tap for 4 mana in order to cast a Pyrohemia. Foley will then lose 4 life to his Mana Barbs, and he'll try to pass to Calvin, but before he can, Trigger's going to fetch, losing a life. Before that fetch resolves, Guy wants to tap 2 mana, losing 2 life, to cast Snap, targeting the Elvish Reclaimer. This works, so Reclaimer goes back to the hand, then Calvin gets to resolve his fetch land.
What proper duel are you getting this time?
Oh, you're approaching me?
Oh, no, got it.
Calvin winds up getting a Plateau, and then he's going to lose a life and tap it for white in order to try to cast Enlightened Tutor. I have a response, I'll fetch, dropping down to 32, then I'll shock in a Watery Grave, dropping down to 30, then I'll lose another life to cast Flusterstorm, countering the Enlightened Tutor. After that, we're going to move back to Calvin's turn. He's going to untap and draw his card for turn, and in his first main phase, he'll tick up Wrenn and Six again to buy back Bloodstained Mire. Then he's going to play that Bloodstained Mire in addition to an Ancient Tomb. At this point, he'll start to count some mana and decide to tap 5 of it, losing a total of 5 life to the Mana Barbs, to cast Golos. When Golos enters the battlefield, it triggers, so he gets to search his library for a land, and in this case, he's going to get a Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle.
What is that? What does that -2 do again?
Hit trash for treasures, okay.
I got it, man.
4 damage?
4 damage to it.
It's to 1.
I don't mean to be mean, but you always are harping about good magic. That's good magic.
No, he's bad. He's just a little Duretti. He wants to go get nothing out of the graveyard because there's no artifacts. This Foley's a piece of shit.
After combat, he's going to try to pass to me, but first, I'm going to float 3 mana, losing a life to untap Basalt Monolith. Then I'll untap and draw my card for turn. I'm going to start by ticking up my Duretti, but in response, Guy's going to tap for 3, losing 3 life, in order to flash in Hull Breacher. I have a response, I'll lose 2 life to tap 2 mana, and counterspell the Hull Breacher. Then Duretti's ability will resolve. I'm going to discard 1 card, in this case it's Urborg, to draw a card. After this, I'm going to tap for some more mana, and I'm going to play Crawl Clan Ironworks. With nothing else, I'll pass the turn to Guy. Guy will untap and draw his card for turn, and play a basic island as his land for turn. Then he's going to exile Simeon's Spirit Guide from his hand in order to generate 1 red mana, and he's going to tap and float 5 of his mana, losing 5 to Mana Barbs. He'll use all 6 to cast a Shatterskull Smashing for 4, targeting Golos and Wrenn and Six. This is going to resolve, and then before he passes the turn, Foley will tap for 1 red and activate Pyrohemia. This will effectively kill Golos and deal damage to each of us, and Foley will also take 1 off of his own Mana Barbs. This leaves Foley at 38, Trigger at 21, me at 25, and Guy at 22. Wrenn and Six will drop to 3 loyalty, Trigger's going to rezone the Golos, and with nothing else, we'll move to Foley's turn, where he's going to untap and then trigger Klothys, deciding to exile my Goblin Engineer and drain gain us all for 2 damage. Then he's going to play a basic forest as his land for turn, and try to pass to Trigger, but before he can, Trigger's going to fetch, searching his library for a Ragier Triome, which triggers Valakut. With the Valakut trigger on the stack, Foley's going to tap for 1 to crop rotation, sacrificing the forest that he tapped in order to go get a copy of Strip Mine. Then he's going to try to Strip Mine Calvin's Valakut with the trigger on the stack.
I'm going to pay a red and a green. I'll lose the 2 life, but I'm going to give Mina trample by returning the land in my hand.
Wait, you can respond. Is that
No,
an
this is the
additional
cost. This is the cost.
Oh, it's a cost. Very good.
I mean, he could wasteland it.
It's a cost.
It's a cost. You can't respond.
The land is in my hand.
Does that mean your thing gets blown up anyway?
Yeah,
Yes.
probably, yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Disgusting.
Trigger will then hit Foley with the Valakut trigger, and it'll drop down to 36, and then we're going to move back to Trigger's turn. He'll untap and draw his card for turn, then he's going to play Valakut as his land for turn once again, taking up Wrenn and Six to go buy back that Bloodstained Mire for the umpteenth time. He'll play Bloodstained Mire as his land for turn, then he's going to play another basic mountain, targeting Foley with the Valakut trigger. After this point, he'll head into combat and attack Foley with his Mina and Den. Foley takes it, dropping down to 29. Then Calvin's going to count out a whole bunch of mana and tap for 7, losing 7 to Mana Barbs to cast Golos out of the command zone for the second time. It's going to trigger when it enters the battlefield, and this time he's going to go get Glacial Chasm. After that, he's going to try to pass the turn to me. Before he can, I'll use my Monolith to cycle Savai Triumph and draw a card, and then we'll go to my turn, where I'm going to untap, gain a life to my Inventor's Fair, and draw my card for turn. Feeling somewhat behind at this point, I'm going to tap my Soul Ring for 2 mana, and then I'll tap 2 more lands for mana. That'll cause me to lose 2 life from the Mana Barbs. Then I'll activate my Inventor's Fair. I'm going to sacrifice Inventor's Fair and search my library for an artifact and put it into my hand. In this case, I'm going to go get Spine of Isha. This card actually has an interesting amount of synergy with the ready, as you'll see in just a moment. I'm then going to use Krark Ironworks to sacrifice Soul Ring, Basalt Monolith, and the Krark Ironworks itself to generate 6 mana. After that, I'll tap my last land for 1 more mana, generating 7, losing 1 to Mana Barbs to cast the Spine. When it enters the battlefield, I get to destroy a permanent. In this case, I'm going to target Wrenn and Six. Then I'll tick down my Duretti, sacrificing the Spine. When it hits the bin, it puts itself back in my hand. And then I get to reanimate an artifact. In this case, I'll get Basalt Monolith. Then I'll play Polluted Delta as my land for turn. And with nothing else, I'll pass the turn to Guy. Guy's going to untap, upkeep, and draw his card for turn. Then I'll play a basic island as his land for turn. With nothing else, he'll just pass back to Foley, who's going to exile my KCI with his Klothys, dealing 2 to everyone but Calvin, and gaining 2 life. After that, he'll drop a basic forest as his land for turn, and he's going to tap for 3 mana, losing 3 life to his Mana Barbs. He's going to cast a Citadel of Pain.
Beginning of each player's end step, Citadel of Pain deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of untapped lands they control.
Holy fucking shit! So good. Oh, this Klothys deck is gas.
After making us regret playing even a single land in our decks, he's going to rearrange the way he tapped, and then he's going to try to use his Wasteland to take out the Glacial Chasm. Trigger has a response. He's going to pay for 2 mana to give Mina and Den trample and bounce the Glacial Chasm to hand. But now that the Glacial Chasm is out of play even for a moment, Foley's going to tap for a red to activate Pyrohemia, draining everybody for 1, and then he's going to do it one more time, dropping him down to 24, Trigger to 7, me to 17, and Guy to 16. After that, Trigger will untap, draw, then float a red, dropping down to 6 because of the Mana Barbs, and he'll redeploy that Glacial Chasm, sacrificing the mountain that he had tapped for mana. After this point, he's going to tap out all of his mana in order to cast Torment of Hellfire, where X equals 8. We're all going to decide to either sacrifice or discard a total of 3 cards apiece, taking 5 of the triggers to the dome, which is going to be 15 damage per player. That brings me to 2, Guy to 1, and Foley to 9. After that, Calvin's going to bin the Torment and pass the turn to me. I'm going to use my Polluted Delta and fetch, dropping down to 1 to get a Blood Crypt into play tapped. Then I'll untap and draw my card for turn.
I'm gonna tap 1.
Okay.
I'm gonna respond to the Mana Barbs trigger. I'm gonna tap for 1. I'm gonna respond to the Mana Barbs trigger. I'm gonna tap 1. I'm gonna respond to the Mana Barbs trigger. I'm gonna tap 1. I'm gonna respond to the Mana Barbs trigger and unplug the N64.
After dying to Mana Barbs and Citadel of Pain, Guy's going to go out the same exact way, passing the turn right back to Foley, who's going to untap, and then he's going to draw and trigger Klothys, exiling a card from Calvin's graveyard and gaining 2 life. Then he's going to tap for 3 mana and play Blood Moon. This is going to have Foley taking 3 damage from his own Mana Barbs, and when he tries to pass the turn, he's going to lose 2 life for his untapped mana off of the Citadel of Pain. Then Trigger will untap and go to combat.
Enter combat?
Yeah.
Attack with the exploration.
I get to attack with the exploration, not you, Mr. Neon Mushroom. Attack. All right. Oh.
Golos is a fair and balanced Magic the Gathering card. Here at the end I want to talk about how all the decks did in order from the least impactful all the way up to the most impactful. And in this case I would say the least impactful deck goes to either me or Guy. I would probably say it was me, although there was some stuff that maybe not everyone would have noticed, so I'll go through it really quickly. I led with a Goblin Engineer, putting an Ashnod's Altar in my bin. For those of you who don't know, Ashnod's Altar is one of the main combo pieces in a lot of the Breya decks. You can use Ashnod's Altar in conjunction with the tokens that Breya drops to start to generate a bunch of mana. If you have something like a Nim Deathmantle, you can go infinite, and these cards in a self-contained way can deal infinite damage to everybody. That's why Guy lightning bolted my Goblin Engineer, so I could the next turn drop my Mox Opal and trade it for an Ashnod's Altar. And then all I needed to do was go grab Nim Deathmantle, and that is not an issue for the Breya deck typically. That was pretty good, but because Guy did bolt me, I didn't do a whole lot that game. Then there was Guy himself, who spent a lot of his time bolting my my Goblin Engineer, and then trying to interact with Calvin in a few ways, like snapping his Elvish Reclaimer, in ordering to try to choke him up on how often he could go tutor for a land. But between Guy and I, we didn't do nearly as much as the other two players, which were Calvin and Foley, or Trigger and Foley. I would say between the two of them, Foley was actually the more impactful player, even though he didn't win the game. He got his group slug thing going online really quickly. Klothys is actually kind of like Mogus, where it's just a really good slug piece out of the command zone. It's able to start generating a lot of value very early, and it also does this cool thing where it kind of hates out decks that want to use their graveyard, like my Breya deck. But Calvin stood to have the most gain out of that whole situation because he was able to get Glacial Chasm from his deck because he was able to tutor for lands at the last moment. Him not doing this earlier meant we were much less likely to try to focus him very early on in the game. He was able to take over, and basically Foley just died to his own group slug pieces, and that's all there was to it. I hope you guys like these decks. The Breya deck is a new one to the channel. All of them are actually new decks to the channel. Some of these decks are new to us, like I think that was Foley's second time playing his Klothys deck. That was my first time actually playing the Breya deck, and you'll be seeing more of it. I am actually pretty happy with the build itself, so hopefully you guys get to see more of that. And then the Golos deck was Aiden's, so Aiden also has a Golos deck now, I guess. And I'm really pumped for you guys to see the Krark Sakashima deck more often in the future. There may or may not be a game recorded already where it just dominates everybody. Full disclosure, that counts as a spoiler, but we're like 15 minutes into the video, and how many of you are even still here anyway? That's all I have for you guys. Really quick for anyone who actually stayed to the end of this video, we're going to start live streaming weekly, and we'll do a poll later in the week to see what you guys think about what we should be live streaming this coming Saturday. We have a few ideas. We'll let you guys decide what we actually go with, but just keep in mind that's going to be Saturday, and Trigger will probably be a part of it this time. I'm rambling at this point, so I'm going to let you guys off the hook. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.